Trap that most new traders fall in, right? How many courses have you bought? And then ask yourself, how many strategies have you tried? All right. How many YouTube channels or videos have you watched looking for that, that one setup that was going to finally make everything click? And I get it. I went through about 36 courses. 36 courses, different strategies, different systems, and different ways of looking at the markets in the beginning. And, one thing that all of them had in common was none of them were 100%. And this is what I figured out after years of searching. The problem was never the strategy. Okay. It was never the strategy. While I will say some strategies are better than others because they will give you a higher probability edge, a more positive expectancy of playing out over time compared to others. There is not one strategy that is 100% because losses in trading are an inevitable thing that is just a part of the process. It is tuition. It is the cost of doing business, the cost of participation. Okay, so here's how that trap looks in more detail, right? You start trading, you lose. So you think, I need a better strategy. You buy a course, you learn a new setup, you try that for a few weeks, and then you lose again. So now you think, okay, that strategy didn't work. I need a different one. And that cycle just keeps going until you realize that, right? And logically, it makes complete sense because, as humans, we want to find the best tool for the job. If something isn't working, we look for something better. And that's just, this is how we are, right? But trading doesn't work that way because the issue isn't the tool. The issue is the person holding the tool. All right. So I need you to think about it like this, right? You could hand the same strategy to 10 different traders, okay? And some of them will be profitable with it. Some of them will blow up with it. Same strategy, but completely different results. What's different is the trader and their psychology, their discipline, and their relationship with money and loss, right? Their ability to execute without interference. That's what's actually driving the results, not the strategy, okay? So when you keep jumping to the next course, the next system, the next YouTube setup, you're not solving the real problem. You're actually avoiding it. All right. Now, let me tell you what I actually base my trading around and why this changed everything in terms of my technical analysis playing out and just overall performance, right? Every strategy you've ever seen, every indicator, every pattern, every system is trying to answer one question. Where is price going next? But most strategies answer that question by looking at the echo of the market. Okay. They're looking at what price already did and trying to predict what it'll do next. I stopped doing that. And instead, I asked a completely different question. What actually makes price move to begin with? Right. And the answer that you can go nowhere else and hear any different is liquidity. All right. Think about what I need you to think about what a trade actually is. Okay. For you to buy, somebody has to sell. For you to sell, somebody has to buy. So every single transaction in these markets requires liquidity on both sides. That means the market is constantly moving toward liquidity. It's hunting it, taking it, and targeting it, which is actually the name of my strategy, my system, right? Once I understood that, and truly understood it, everything became more simplified. And I stopped asking where's price going and started asking where's the liquidity, right? Where has it built up? Where is it likely to get taken from? Where is price targeting next? Okay. That's what I call taking target because that's all the market ever does. It takes liquidity and it targets liquidity. They need liquid to fuel the movement in another direction for more liquid. Okay. And no indicator tells you that. No algorithm can calculate that. It's strictly something you have to learn to see it on the raw naked chart. Okay. Candle by candle, move by move. And when you build your entire approach around that, right? When you build your entire approach around that understanding, around the core of what actually drives price, you stop needing to search for a new strategy because you finally understand the market. Okay, so let me tell you what happens when you stop bouncing around and you decide to commit to one approach. First, you start collecting real data. All right, when you stick with one strategy long enough, 100 trades, 200 trades, 300 trades, you now have an actual sample size. You can look at that and you can look at that data and ask real questions. Is this giving me positive expectancy? Is this edge working over time? You can't answer those questions when you're switching strategies every 3 weeks. Okay, the data is going to be obviously skewed. All right. Second, your pattern recognition starts to actually develop because every time you look at the market through the same lens, your brain gets a better seeing. It gets better at seeing setups through that lens. All right, you start noticing things you didn't notice before, and that only comes from one approach, which is repetition. Okay, constantly approaching and constantly repetitive, doing repetitive things, seeing the same thing over and over, looking for the same thing over and over. Okay. Third, and this is the one most people miss. You finally have something to measure the psychological work against. Most traders haven't even started on their mental and psychological work in the beginning. And part of the reason is they keep switching strategies, right? But when you commit to one approach and you're seeing the same types of trades over and over, now you can start to identify your personal patterns. Why do I keep cutting this trade early? Why do I keep entering before confirmation? Why do I keep breaking these specific rules, right? The strategy becomes a mirror, and the mirror shows you exactly what psychological work still needs to be done. Okay. So if you've been buying courses and jumping strategies, I'm not judging you because I did the same thing for years. But I want you to hear this. You don't have a strategy problem. You never really did. Like I said before, if you come into trading with absolutely no knowledge, no anything, and just press buy or sell, you have a 50-50 chance of winning a trade. Okay. But I say all that to say you need to pick one approach. Understand why it works at the root level, not just what pattern to look for, but what's actually driving price. Okay. And for me, that's liquidity. So you need to find your version of that. Then commit to that long enough to collect real data, fix your psychology alongside that, and build that relationship and connection with price in the market. And that is how traders are actually made. Okay. It's not by finding the perfect strategy, but by becoming the right trader.